Topics we're going to cover: Gretzky, Mario, things not to do at a private golf course, and a new hockey release to add to your book list. Doug MacLean is in Hall of Fame form today on the Chirp Podcast with Darren Millard, with stories about life and our game. It'll keep you smiling for the next few days. Trust me, it's a perfect serotonin release.
Boys, I'm Mike today. Just let everyone know, don't say anything stupid.
That's a disgrace! That's a disgrace! What a joke!
Heads up! Oh, how'd that feel, old man?
Hit him, light him up.
Yeah, nice hit.
That's solid.
Hey there, everybody. Thanksgiving in the United States, a little lighter schedule on the ice this week. A perfect time to catch our breath. We break from the serious talk. A couple of weeks ago, Greg Cronin took us through an incredible journey. We will lighten the mood. Go back and listen to that, by the way. It is as honest as you are going to get, but not a lot of laughs in that one. It is just an emotional ride with Greg Cronin. This is a much different mood as we visit with my PEI neighbor in Shelton Beach, Doug MacLean, longtime coach, both assistant and head man in the National Hockey League. He was president and general manager with Columbus, and then he went on to leave an indelible mark on our sport at Sportsnet, where Mac and I teamed with Nick Kyprios on Hockey Central at noon, a radio show that was simulcast, and I still think is the best hockey radio show to date. And he was also part of our national broadcasts as well, trade deadlines, Stanley Cup playoffs. John Shannon, our buddy, also a part of that journey. And we've all kind of moved on to different areas, but still the best of friends. I mentioned John Shannon a little bit because we're going to talk about Bob McCown and one of the most epic radio interviews of all time. The day the roof caved in, the ceiling caved in on Hockey Central at noon. But really wanted to connect with Doug to see if he'll share any stories about his new best-selling book, Draft Day. Here's the reality. We got so sidetracked with our own storytelling, Doug, and then I would jump in with a couple of little tidbits, that we barely got the book in. So I'm going to let you know all about how to connect with Doug, to see Doug on his book tour, or buy the book, published by Simon & Schuster, in just a little bit. But I want to get to what is just story after story. And it's Thanksgiving week. We're not going to play the drinking game with the wine, but I do encourage you, because there's a lot of salt in our food these days, stay hydrated. So take a sip of water every time Doug tells a story, and I guarantee you there won't be any cramping up. Doug MacLean, an instant classic episode of The Chirp with Darren Millard. That was my intro. The only way that I can get through an intro without you interrupting is to pre-record the intro. Does that sound familiar?
You know what? I have interrupted in the past. Since I've retired, Jill will not let me interrupt. So I become much more socially adjusted in my retirement.
Does Jill wish that you would start a career again, like pick up a hobby that would get you out of the house more?
Well, I have a lot of hobbies, and today I had to cover the furniture because they're painting at our condo here in Florida, so I had to cover the furniture. I've got a lot of duties.
You're a real handyman. You're a real handyman.
I'm a handyman. I said, honey, I need help putting this plastic over the furniture. She said, Doug, just put it over and tape it to the floor. It's not that complicated. But anyway, I got it done. So no, I've been busy. I really have been busy doing nothing, and I had not been bored 1 minute. It's bizarre, but we're here 7 months. We're in PEI 4.5. It's hard to get bored. It really is. And if I get really bored, I go over to the beach and have a swim. Well, I got a great story to tell you. I'm walking up the other day I'm going to dinner. Jill's away. She's with her girlfriends in South Carolina on a girls' weekend. So I'm walking up. And Rimmer phones me, and Alan May. Alan May, the broadcaster with the Caps. So I coached Alan May with the
And this
Washington
is Jeff Rimmer
Capitals.
from the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Well, I thought I didn't have to address that. He did write a a retirement letter that was longer than the U.S. Constitution announcing his retirement. I said, Rims, nobody cares if the play-by-play guy is retiring, especially you. Nobody really cares. You don't have to write an essay on it. So anyway, I'm walking up, and Alan May and he are on the phone. We're talking. I coached Alan with Kyprios, actually. They were teammates at the same time in Washington. So I get to this restaurant in Delray, walk 5-7 minute walk, and this couple come in. They're sitting next to me, and I say something. They go, Canada, Canada, because of my accent, obviously. And then they go, hockey. And I said, yeah. The guy says, one of my best friends is Alan May. I said, you're kidding. I just talked to him 3 minutes ago. How bizarre is that?
That's a PEI story.
Okay, I got a Delray story for you.
Okay.
So I'm playing, and I think I told you this before. I was playing golf with Jack Armstrong last summer.
He's the analyst for the Toronto Raptors, for those that don't know.
Yes. Okay, Jack Armstrong. So anyway, he's a little bit like Rimmer. He thinks everybody knows him too. So anyway, playing golf with Jack and at Seagate Country Club, where Jack's a member, and we noticed in the ninth hole, this couple was pushing us a little bit.
And you don't like that. You don't like that.
No, and we got to 9, and I thought, okay, let's just let this couple live. So we stopped, and we're getting a drink, just standing there, both of us sitting on the golf cart, and this cart pulls up next to us, and it's a guy and his wife, presumably his wife. And I said, hey, you guys can go ahead. And he goes, hey, Mac, how you doing? And I said, excuse me, do I know you? He takes his hat and glasses off, and he said, Jesus, Mac, it's Mario. It was Mario Lemieux and his wife.
You didn't recognize Mario?
Like, seriously. So Jack says, I said, oh, Mario, that's bizarre. I just watched a special on you last night. You know, when he had leukemia and he won this comeback in the scoring rate. I said, oh my God, I feel so embarrassed. You know, I feel terrible. So anyway, he pulls away, and Jack said, just a minute. Mario recognized you, and you didn't recognize Mario Lemieux? Like, how? So I told Kyprios and them on the show the next week, and then they come on and said, hey, by the way, Gretzky's down in near Delray, Boynton Beach. Make sure if you see him, you recognize the great one, okay? Anyway, how bad is that? Anyway, that's my storytelling for today.
No. It's not even close to being done. I know better than that. You did coach Mario, or Wayne and Mario, did you not?
In the same All-Star game, yeah.
Yeah. Tell everybody your story, how you deployed them.
I didn't really deploy them, but it was an unbelievable special treat in that All-Star game to have Mario and Gretzky and Messier and, I mean, Bork and Coffey. And I remember in the last minute of the game, I put on the ice the 5 greatest players to play in that sort of generation. When I put those guys on the ice in the last minute of the game to sort of highlight their unbelievable careers. It was a treat to be around them. It really was a treat to be around those guys. But I remember after the second period going in, and we were losing in the second game. First game was in Boston. First All-Star game I coached was in Boston, and Bork scored the winner with a minute left in a 4-3 game or 5-4 game to win it.
There's cash for you there.
Yeah. So the next year I go in after the second period. We're not playing great. So I said, boys, here's the deal. I know you guys all have a ton of money. I get all that. I get it. I'm a fairly second-year coach in the NHL. This game is $10,000 to me if we win. So whether you guys want to play around, you go ahead. I'm going with who's going best in the third because I want the 10 grand. So you guys decide. And they looked at me like I was crazy, and we went out and we won. So that was in San Jose. Remember when Nolan pointed at the net and scored the goal?
Yeah.
So that was in the old days, but we had a lot of fun. You know, now it's like, what is this? What is, now it's like, anyway, let's not get in there. I know you're sponsored by the NHL, so I won't go there.
How did you do when you put the Fab Five on the ice? Did you
score
a couple of goals?
It was the last minute of the game, so it was just a showboat, But I've got the greatest Gretzky story. I love telling the story about son Clark. Clark was 9 at the time. He was on the bench, and Or anyway, we were going into the All-Star game. Tell me if you want me to cut this story out because you've heard it many times. But
People haven't.
I go in, I phone ahead to Mike Barnett and I said, Clark's got this amazing stick collection that Jill had got him to do when I was coaching with the Red Wings. So I phoned, I said, look, he just doesn't have that Gretzky silver Easton stick. And Mike, is there any way you could bring one to the All-Star game for Clark? Wayne shows up, comes into the coach's office with the stick the very first day and gives it to Clark. I thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Clark's a stick boy, runs around the dressing room for the 2 or 3 days we're there. And he's helping with giving them tape and water and comes on the bench with me, which was a highlight of my life. I have that on tape showing Clark on the bench on, I believe it was Fox. And after the game, Gretzky calls him over in the dressing room and says, hey, buddy, you were really great for us, and pulls off his NHL All-Star game-worn jersey, signs it to Clark, your friend Wayne Gretzky, and gives it to Clark in the dressing room. So 2 years later, I meet him in Columbus, and he's there with Arnold Schwarzenegger at a big opening of Easton. And I go up to him, I said, Wayne, I still can't believe you did that for Clark. I said, I'm blown away by that. And he said, well, I'm really glad he's enjoyed it because I'm still in shit with the NHL for giving it to him. So they wanted it for the Hall of Fame. So Clark has it in his wall in his cottage in DEI, and he's really proud of it. But
we won't give away the exact location of that.
No, we don't give that out. Along with his Lemieux stick, who I don't know, by the way.
Yeah. I can't believe you didn't recognize Ace.
Well,
Everybody calls him Ace. Did you call him Ace?
No, because he had his hat and glasses on, and I didn't expect him to be pushing me on the 9th hole, you know?
He didn't ask you to play. He didn't ask you to join them.
No, he didn't. But we had a great chat, but he got quite a chuckle out of me not recognizing me. He really did. And I thought, oh my God, I've never been so embarrassed. Then I go over there. He's also a member of Pine Tree, which is the great course, and Marty Brodeur and Ray Shepard and Mario. Mario's son, by the way, won the club championship there this past year. A buddy of mine played with him in an overtime battle for the club championship at Pine Tree, which is a spectacular course. Gary Woodland, the PGA star. By the way, we have something in common, Gary Woodland and I, which I didn't know. It's not our golf game, but we have the same barber in Delray. So the guy thought that was kind of cool. He said, 2 big celebrities in this week, you and Gary Woodland. Gary
Who
Woodland
tells better stories? I know it's you.
But anyway, I go to Pine Tree to play. Okay. I get invited to Pine Tree, and I think this is really cool. It's a beautiful course. It's too tough for me, but I play. So I bring cigars for the boys. You know, a guy that invites me, and he's got his son-in-law and his son with him, so we have a foursome. So I've got the torch and the cigars, so I light the cigars for the boys. And the caddy had given me this towel to put underneath, you know. So I light the cigars. I throw the torch underneath, and we're going down the first fairway, and all of a sudden there's a fire in the golf cart. My white towel caught fire. I grab it and throw it out onto the fairway. The caddy's saying, like, what the hell is going on here? Anyway, seriously, we got a fire in the golf cart. This is at an exclusive Pine Tree golf course where, you know, it's the top of the top in South Florida. So anyway, that's it for stories.
Is that the hottest you've ever been on the golf course?
Oh my God, it was so bad. So the same day, a final story, same day where I hit my second shot on 18, and I look over and my golf bag falls off the golf cart onto the ground. And the caddy, who's a Michigan guy and a hockey guy, I go over and, you know, this is the 18th hole, not the first hole and I go over and my brand new $475 driver is snapped in two, laying on the ground. And I think, and my guy, the guy that invited me loses it. He said, that's a joke. That's their only job is to put that bag on the cart. They're going to buy you a new driver. He's going nuts. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the guy that put it on my bag is a great kid. I'm sure he's not buying me a new driver. So I go in and I say to the caddy, I said, just go in while my host is going nuts. I said, just go in and ask the boys where I can maybe go and get this fixed. Anyway, they give me a name of a guy. So I take it there, and all of a sudden the guy who is the golf club fixer gave me a lesson when I was coaching the Panthers 20 years earlier. So he fixed my club. So it was kind of funny. But anyway, that's it for storytelling.
That's the 7th time you've said that.
It's bad.
And we're still not done.
I know. We haven't even done the introduction.
We'll get into the book because I'm really excited to hear you tell some stories from draft day. This has been a journey for you for the last couple of years as you've put this together, and it's been fun to watch from my end of it, to be able to just witness in real time what goes into writing a book. So that's ahead, but touch on a couple of things that are happening in the league right now. Edmonton, first out of the gate, what would you do if you were Kenny Holland or Jeff Jackson? Because that's got to be a difficult or awkward situation. I'm sure that they're fine with each other, but one guy's brought in overlooking the other guy, and Kenny Holland's won a bunch of Stanley Cups, and they're all struggling.
This is sort of the second time Kenny's gone through this, because let's not forget Yzerman was brought in to Detroit, after he had worked for Kenny for years, and Kenny and Jimmy D had molded him. So this is the second time. Kenny's in his last year. He's not going to be, he wants to leave. He's going to move on. He's going to retire. And I think he feels really good about that. I talked to him, during the book process. I actually talked to him in the summer quite a bit, and he feels really good about that. Jeff comes in as the CEO with Bob Nicholson departure. And knowing Kenny the way I do, Kenny's always been a guy. I worked with Kenny for 5 years in Detroit. He's a guy that works with people. And so, I really believe him and Jeff would be fine together. And it's awkward for Jeff to be, the boss of a Hall of Famer. It's awkward for both sides, but I have no doubt that it's working probably well. And I have no doubt that they made a decision. And I obviously, look, Knoblauch's name has been coming up for a year or so. I've heard good things about him as a coach. And when I saw that Jeff had a history with him, and Kenny would have known about him, I think it was a good hire. I thought a coaching change had to be made. I don't know Jay Woodcroft that well, but I like him. He did a good job, but that's just the way it is in the NHL. It happens to all of us, okay? Your team goes south. You can't pull them out of it, mainly because your goaltending isn't good enough. Mainly, in fairness to him, the team lost confidence because of their goaltending, whether you want to believe it or not. And they couldn't. Typically, you get them to be better defensively, to pay a price defensively, to help your goaltender get through it. They didn't do it. It didn't happen. I'm sure they tried, but it didn't happen. And I agreed at the time that a coaching change had to be made. But I've never seen a situation where the goaltending has struggled and your defense is sloppy defensively. Your whole team may be a touch sloppy defensively. And two of the greatest players in the game have not played very well. When do you see that? And extends for a period of time. Like I watched them play the other night against Tampa. Still nothing from the big guys. And I know they scored the previous game or so and they won, but I've never seen anything like it. So I say they're going to make the playoffs. I really believe they will. I agree with you. I think they'll find their way. I mean, one of the best series I watched last year in the playoffs, Darren, was that series with the Oilers and Golden Knights. That was a heck of a series. It could have went either way. And they've got to find a way to get back and get on track here. They're too good a team for this to happen to be this bad. So they got to stabilize their goaltending. So can they find somebody? Can they hope that Skinner, he looked good for a couple of games, not so good the other night. I feel for them, and I like Jeff and I really like Kenny. So I hope it happens for them.
The Knoblauch hiring, I'm with you. His name has been in the circle when openings have come up for a while.
Yeah.
So for him to get to the National Hockey League is not a surprise. How it happened, and because he's been Connor's former coach,
Yeah.
does that put him in a tougher spot or Connor in a tougher spot in the dressing room?
You know what? I think is it any different for when I got my first head coaching job and I was there because of Brian Murray? You know, and I'll never forget Dick Rauter saying to me at my press conference, Vic Rauter, what's
Vic
his
Rauter.
name?
Vic. Yeah.
Well, I called him Dick at the time because
TSN
I thought
announcer.
he was a Dick. But anyway, TSN.
No, he's a great curling guy.
Anyway, he's in draft day. So when I got the job at Florida at my press conference, they asked me to do this press conference after with TSN. So he asked me, were you the 4th or 5th choice for the Panthers for this coaching job? So the story's in the book where I said at the end of the interview, I said, thanks for the interview, Dick. Instead of Vic, I called him Dick. So that's in the book. But I mean, and then TSN got 5,000 faxes in those days from people in PEI just ripping poor Vic. But anyway, so is it any different? Like, I don't think, and people that O'Connor pushed for this, not a chance. I know Jeff Jackson, he said he didn't talk to Connor about this hire at that particular time, and I believe him. Jeff Jackson was hired. People think, look, he was hired because of McDavid. Not a chance. Jeff Jackson.
Oh, there's something there. I love Jeff. I consider Jeff,
but he's an independent guy. He's his own guy. And yeah, there's something there, but that's not Jeff Jackson's fault. That's not Jeff Jackson's fault. He's offered, like, who wouldn't? I don't care. I just said why I got the Panther job was because of Brian Murray. Who cares? You're the CEO. It's one of the greatest jobs in the NHL. It's like your guy, George McPhee. How do you beat that job? You know, whether he's president or CEO, whatever it is. So I don't blame Jeff at all in this. And I think Knoblauch got the job mainly because Jeff has watched him over the last 7 or 8 years coaching DeBrincat, coaching McDavid, coaching all these Brown, coaching all these guys. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You look for familiarity when you're making hires. Typically, that's what you do. I don't begrudge them that, and I don't think it's wrong.
Ottawa, is it true that Kyprios was going to be president of hockey operations and you were going to be the general manager if his group had won the bid to buy the Senators?
No, not a chance. Not a chance. No, that's not true. Was there a chance I was going to be a consultant? Yes. Which the GM wouldn't have liked. But no, I wasn't going to be the GM. That's for sure.
How do you think Kipper would have done?
I think he would have done really well.
Yeah.
I know he we sort of were together on that for probably 2 or 3 months, that little process, and it was kind of fun. I've been through it a few times now. I went through it with Buffalo a couple of years ago when Kevin Adams got the job because one of their guys had phoned me about being a senior advisor. I told you this story, right?
Yep.
I go through that process with it was Pegula's top guy in charge of the operation, business, but oversaw the hockey and the football. So he interviewed me, and we went for about a week. And he said, Kim Pegula would like to meet, will probably like to meet with us. She just lived next to us in Delray. That was fine. And then he said, we moved along. Then he said, I'd like you to, Kevin Adams, they'd like you to speak with Kevin Adams, the new GM. And I thought, geez, I don't know about that one. The last time I talked to Kevin Adams was when I called him into my office and traded him to Carolina for Ray Whitney, or Florida. I guess it was Florida, for Ray Whitney. I'm not sure this comes. So anyway, I did talk to Kevin, who I happen to like. And my owner in Columbus was so ticked off at me when I traded Kevin Adams, because we traded him for Ray Whitney, which was, I thought it was turned out to be a great trade for Columbus. And it was great for Kevin. But my owner was so upset because Kevin had played at Miami of Ohio. And he said, how could you trade a Miami of Ohio guy? I said, because we got a good player for him. That's why. But anyway. So the conversation with Kevin was good. But I knew when we hung up, I wasn't getting the job. So anyway, it was fun. So I've been through it a few times, but with Kipper, it was really kind of exciting. We knew it was going to be a challenge because Ant Lauer was a favorite and a good person, and the NHL really liked Michael, and Michael's a likable guy, and he probably deserved a chance to be an owner, and I knew we were in tough with him, but it was a fun process to go through. It really was.
Hey, there's another process. Remember the Balsillie transaction? You were involved in that. They've made a movie.
Thank God I
in
didn't
Canada.
make the movie.
Are you in it?
No, I'm not in it. I'll never forget. I get a call. Would I meet with Jim Balsillie? Yeah. First I said, "Who's Jim Balsillie?" And they said, "Oh, he owns BlackBerry." So I drive out to Waterloo. I was at Sportsnet, and he's sitting in front of me at the desk, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking at buying Arizona and moving it to Hamilton. I need somebody to help me as a consultant, to help with the process to move the team from Arizona." So I look at him, I said, Jim, the NHL is really, really a tough business, a really tough business. And he looked at me and he said, "Doug, don't talk to me about tough. I'm up against Nokia, Apple," and he listed all these phone companies that he's up against. And I'm thinking, I don't care about your competition with the phone companies. I guess I should have cared more. But anyway, so he offered me a deal to help with the move process. And I was going to become president of the team in Hamilton. That was the deal. And he was going to try to hire Steve Yzerman as the GM. He told me that right in the office that day. And I thought, okay, this is kind of he knew everything. He knew more about hockey than I ever, so we went through the process, and, it was a sort of it took me an hour to write out the move stuff, what you had to do to move a team. And it was really a nothing thing. And that was sort of that. Then it morphed into the most historic fight in Canadian radio history, because what's his name? McCowan was mad I didn't tell him, and he heard it from secondhand, and he snapped and lost his marbles, and I had a ball with it. And to this day,
I remember listening to that fight live on the air, like the initial fight, and it was nasty.
I was on the side. We're out to dinner in Darnley, and I was standing on the side of the road doing the damn interview on a highway, doing the interview. And he's going nuts, and I'm thinking, get lost. Anyway, I phoned him the next morning. I said, "What was that BS?" And he said, "Well, and I said, no, it was BS." So my poor mother, Fran, went to her grave hating Bob McCowan, hating his guts. So every time I'm on with him, I say, "By the way, even though Mom's in heaven, she hates your guts." So Mom used to say to me when she was just going through her, repeating herself, at the end of the last little while of her life, she kept saying to me every time I meet her, "How is that radio guy in Toronto doing?" So it never left Fran's memory.
And we wish Bob all the best in his recovery and getting back on the air full time with John and the Bob McCown podcast. But
yes,
Fran,
we do. And I Bob and I have, it's a joke. We made up shortly after that. He does the big thing of banning you from his show. It's all BS. It's all for ratings. But anyway, he's a good guy. We've always had a great relationship.
My favorite line from Fran, she offers you another drink, and you're like, "I don't know." And she said, "A bird can't fly on one wing." I never really understood it, but it was a good line. It was a great line. And the other one is talking about rumors, which we've got some rumors around the cottage right now. And what's her line about that?
Fran, and I use this all the time in Sportsnet when I was discussing rumors. As they say in PEI, and as Fran has always said, I'm not telling you it's the truth. I'm just telling you what I heard.
Who's the best team in the NHL right now, Doug?
That's a really tough question. For me, it's got to be Vegas. I look at their group, and Kelly, I said to somebody the other night, I hate to say this because it's really makes me look old and be an old school guy, which I'm proud of, but it makes me feel that way. I look at the makeup of their team and I think that's a major junior guy. 8 Western Hockey League players on their team. And I look at Columbus and they got 12 Europeans. Did I make my point?
Yes.
I'm old school. I'm sorry. I apologize for that. But I love the makeup of their group. I love the character in goal. 2 unheralded guys that have won a Stanley Cup. I look at the size of their blue line. What team in the NHL has a blue line that big, as well as skilled? And I look at their skill set up front. I think they're the best team in the league right now, till somebody proves me differently. And I know they've had a couple of little recent losses, but I just, I look at Mark Stone. This guy has blown me away. I said at the time of the trade, I'm worried about his wheels falling off. But when you've got a heart like this guy has, and I don't know him, but I've watched him play a long time, the wheels become secondary because he's got a heart and he's a character and he plays the game the way it's supposed to be played. I really like their team.
Is Boston for real or just another good regular season?
Well, you know what? A little bit like Vegas to me, in that not the way the team's made up, but goaltending. The guys in Vegas got it done at playoff time. The goaltenders, they had to be good. You don't win a cup unless your goaltender is real good, no matter how good you are. Boston have not shown me that yet. Swayman, the other kid, Allmark, have both been real good in the regular season, outstanding in the regular season, but they haven't got it done at playoff time, and it killed them. So until they get over that hump with their goaltending at playoff time, I'm not sold on them. I like their blue line. I love McAvoy. You love Pasternak. You love Bergeron. Bergeron's a character guy. Not Bergeron. Marchand's a character guy. I talk to kids that go into, and I've had experience with a couple of kids that have gone into their dressing room as rookies. And it blew me away what they say about Brad, about when you make the team, you are a part of the team, and he makes you feel a part of it. That's when Bergeron was there, but Marchand was a big part of it. Yeah, I like their team, but to me, they've got a lot to prove at playoff time.
Isn't it interesting? Both Boston and Vegas, there's a specific culture there, and that goes down from George to Kelly, and Kelly has instilled what he believes makes a good team, and he's got history with those that type of Western Canadian group, and it's worked in Boston the same sort of way. It's been passed from Chara to Bergeron to Brad.
No, and great leaders, and nobody look, I had success as a head coach early in my career because of 2 things: John Van Beesbrook in goal, and Brian Skrudland as the character leader of the team, along with a Mellanby and a Lowry and a Tommy Fitzgerald and a Billy, and a Jovanovski and a Warner and the whole Laws and Murphy. They're all. It's bizarre to me what that means in team building, and a lot of guys miss the boat on it, and it's hard, but it's critical. I look at the Florida Panthers 96 team and I say, okay, where are the guys that were on that team? And to a man, almost every one of them have done well in life, moved on, and have had good careers in whatever they got in because of the makeup and character of the individual. I think it's really important. And I think a lot of times it's the missing element on a lot of teams. And that's the toughest part of being a GM, is the chemistry of the group and the character of the group. And they've done a good job.
How involved in the room or around the room were you as a general manager to monitor that kind of chemistry?
I really thought about it all the time. The coaches, I was around a lot. Like I went down after a game one night, Dave King. Do you remember when Dave got hit with the puck on the bench and he was bloody all over him? And I went down and I felt bad after the game. I went down, he's got the towel, blood all over his face. And he said, Doug, that ever happened to you when you were coaching? And I said, no, when I coached, I used to watch the game. So anyway, that's the sort of, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was around the room, if that's what if that's what you mean. But you know what? I would go in, and I'll never forget Harry Sinden telling me this. When I was in Florida, before I got to coaching. Where was it? Was it after Florida? I interviewed in Boston for the assistant GM's job. Harry Sinden was the guy that interviewed me. And I remember Bill Torrey setting it up for me. So it was before I got the head job in Florida. I interviewed for assistant GM there. And Harry Sinden said to me, I will never, we had a great interview. Bill phoned me after and said, I think you're going to get an offer from the Bruins as assistant GM. I was pretty pumped about it. And I didn't get it. But anyway, I'll never forget Harry Sinden say, I would never hire a guy as an assistant GM, even assistant GM, who couldn't walk into my dressing room and talk to the team and feel comfortable doing it. And I remember Harry saying that, and it really hit home to me. And I, because Milbury had been his assistant and had left, and that's whose job I was interviewing for, was Milbury's assistant GM job. And it stuck with me forever. And it was an important trait of Harry Sinden's that if you're a GM or assistant GM of the team, you've got to be able to walk into your room and have the respect of the group and talk to them and feel comfortable doing it. So I think being around the team, not being a distraction or being in the coach's ear on every move, but I think you have to be around. And I think there's a fire a day. As a GM of the NHL, whether people believe it or not, there's a fire a day to put out.
How about around Toronto? Is that multiplied? Because they've got off to a good Global Series event, but they've been so-so.
That would be saying it's a bushfire in PEI compared to a fire in Kelowna in the mountains.
Yeah.
Toronto. It's just, it's really a tough scenario. But to me, the same thing applies. You've got to know the pulse of your room and be involved in it, be engaged in it, feel comfortable, not being a kiss up to them, but being able to talk to the players. They want to talk to the boss, unfortunately, sometimes,
Who's Toronto's best player? Marner?
Well,
Matthews?
Nylander? But Nylander I've been blown away with Nylander, even as the goalie scored last night. I mean, just an individual play. He's been spectacular. To me, right now, he is pulling Johnny Tavares along and Bertuzzi. He's pulling them both along and making it an interesting look for the team, because Matthews and Marner will do their thing and be really good. But this is important for this team, that because their third and fourth lines have never been ever good enough for me, never good enough to win at playoff time. How they're set up, how they're structured, cap-wise, their third and fourth. Kyle tried it umpteen times to fix a third and fourth line and never was able to do it. Tough job, really tough, because of where the money is allocated. But to get that second line as good as they are, every bit as good as the first line, is critical. And Nylander's been the issue. Now, can he drag Bertuzzi along? Like I said to Nick and his buddy there, Bourne, the other day, like they were doing handstands on their show because Bertuzzi made a pass. And I'm thinking, geez, shouldn't he be able to make a pass at $5 million? He made a pass to Tavares in the slot. Oh my God. It was the second coming of, I don't know who, the greatest passer in the history of the game. That's how excited the Toronto media get. I had to calm Nick and Bourne there, the actor, down,
It's not an actor. That's their show on Sportsnet 590 The Fan. You don't think Toronto's good enough yet, though, because the third and fourth lines haven't really progressed?
No, I've got a different slant now, which is, because I have to watch them because of Nick's show, because I do Nick's show every Friday afternoon, Off the Rails segment. Mm-hmm. And I have to,
that's what you do.
I have to watch them now. Like I just said about Vegas and their blue line, there's not a snowball's chance this Toronto blue line's good enough. They're just not good enough. After Morgan Riley, where are you going? Brody's okay. After Brody, you're going to McCabe and you're going to that group. Klingberg's been a disaster. They're just not good enough right now. They really aren't on the back end.
Your book is out, Draft Day. This has been a process for you. Give me the synopsis for people that will be convinced to order the book as they listen to this, what the book is about.
Well, I never wanted to write a book. I really didn't. And Simon & Schuster called me when I left Sportsnet and asked me if I'd consider doing a book. And I said, no, I'm not really interested. And they said, well, we want to do something that's like a money ball of hockey and around the draft. And it really intrigued me. And then we talked about the ghostwriter, and they gave me Scott Morrison. And Scott and I talked, and Scott agreed to come on board, which really was a big deal for me to get Scott. I told you what I said to him the first time when I did the book. I wrote the first 6 chapters, by the pool and by the beach and on my iPad. And so I sent the first 6 chapters, 25,000 words to Scott. He phones me the next morning. He said, Doug, don't you use paragraphs when you write in sentences? I said, what do you mean? The 25,006 went to him from my iPad in one straight line. And he's thinking, what the hell have I got myself into here? So anyway, I phoned Mackenzie, my daughter, who's our computer expert, and she said, oh, Dad, you got to change the settings in your iPad so it goes out in paragraph form. So anyway, once I got through that, we got rolling. So anyway, it's a book about the draft. It's my experiences about the draft, but a lot of other stories about the draft. And there's some great, there's a couple of stories. I've got the, talking about Western Canadian guys. I love the story in it about John Ferguson Sr. And I probably have told you this story, but John Ferguson Sr. was the chief scout of San Jose, great rival of your team. And in that draft, it was a Joe Thornton draft. He desperately wanted Olli Jokinen as his second pick in that draft. He loved Olli Jokinen. So he's over at the World Championships and he's watching Olli. This story, by the way, appeared in a Finnish newspaper recently. So anyway, Fergie goes into the Aspiria Hotel, a bar in Helsinki, Finland, where all the scouts, we used to all hang out at the Aspiria. It was a really hot spot. So Fergie's there at 2:30 in the morning. He looks out in the dance floor, and here's Olli Jokinen shuffling up on the dance floor as a 17, 18-year-old. Fergie walks over to him and says, hey, kid, you should be home in bed. You got a game tomorrow. And he says, F off, old man, Olli told him. Fergie goes back, not that he's lucky to be alive after saying that to John Ferguson Sr. Fergie goes back to his staff and he said, we are not taking Olli Jokinen. No way we're taking Olli Jokinen. We're settling for the next guy. And they took Patrick Marleau instead.
Wow. That's an amazing transition of events. Wow.
Isn't that? So Marleau beats Gordie Howe's record, as you know, for games played. So it's stories like that. We did the Sedin transaction, making Berkey look like a genius. And then I came back with the 99 draft where Berkey had 11 picks in the 99 draft. And one pick of those 11 picks, a kid who played in Brandon, was a 3rd or 4th round pick, a goalie, played one game in the NHL. One game in the NHL from that entire 99 draft for Berkey. So I said, even geniuses have bad drafts. It just happens, So it's sort of a compilation of a lot of my experiences. There's a Nash chapter. There's a Zherdev chapter. There's the Kopitar Brule chapter explaining the rationale behind that. As Nick said to me one day in his show, and you've heard this before, where he said, Doug, what do you think that cost you taking Brule over Kopitar? I said, Nick, probably cost me around $30 million personally, because if I would have taken Kopitar, I'd probably still be a GM, So it's all that sort of thing. And, there's a great chapter. I gave the last chapter is an advice chapter to parents and kids about the draft. And I love the chapter. And a guy sent me a note who I don't know. And he said, that chapter should be on every dressing room wall in every minor hockey rink in Canada and the US. So I've really, I enjoyed it. I think there's a lot of names in it, So it gets to be, but it's been on the bestseller list in Canada, Globe and Mail and Toronto. There 7 consecutive weeks. It's been in the top bestseller, and I'm overjoyed with it. And then today we just announced Indigo have come out with it as the best gifting gift for this holiday season as from their book. So we made
Congratulations.
the Indigo bestseller list today for their big promo, that's Black Friday promo that's starting. So I'm really excited about that. So it's been, I know Simon and Schuster are blown away with it, the success of it. So that's been fun.
Who are you most sure about when you drafted a player? Like can't miss, not going to go wrong. And maybe it worked out, maybe it didn't.
You know, it's kind of funny. I had a bunch of those guys that were late picks. One guy that I loved as a kid was Chris Russell, who we took in the third round.
Yes, great kid.
I watched him. Medicine had a lot, and we took him in the third round and had a great career. I think he played 900 games. I think about you know, different kids over the years that were later picks that really went on to have good careers. And Nash was the automatic, you know, guy that you knew was going to be a star. I actually thought Nasher would be better, but you know, he didn't have the surrounding cast that he needed. I tried to find him a centerman. I brought in Castles. I brought in Fedorov. Brought Fedorov in more to babysit Jared and try to straighten him out. But I didn't get a good enough players to be around Nasher, to be quite honest. And he's just a fabulous kid. So, you know, I think I look at that, you know, who knows? You know?
Am I in the book?
I don't think you made it. And I feel bad about that, you know. Let me just check the index to see if your name's in here. How do you spell your last name?
M. It starts with an M.
Let me see.
This is kind of uncomfortable.
Anyway, I guess it's not in there. But anyway, it should have been. I don't know. But, you know, I had to get so many people's names in there. I didn't even get my brother's and sister's name in there. How bad is that?
That's bad.
That's really bad, and I feel terrible about it. But anyway, I feel really bad about that. You've made me feel bad, and now it's crushed this interview. The whole mood of this interview has taken a negative step. You know.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving, and I miss you, man. Like we didn't get to hang out as much this summer. I miss you. I really do. And you look. I told you this summer. You look happy. You're in great shape. You are in the best place I've ever seen you, and that makes me overjoyed.
So I was that bad before?
No, but you were
okay.
You were working. You were like we all get working. I was a jerk when you're in the trenches and you're stressed out and stuff. Yeah. I'm so happy. You make me want to retire because you're in such a good spot.
Well, I appreciate that, and it has been good, and it's great, and I'll never forget when because I talked in the book about this. I was at the Memorial Cup in Moncton watching Brule after I'd sent him back to junior, and I went to Moncton to watch him, and he was an absolute superstar at that tournament. And I'll never forget not really knowing you, but you coming up to me in the stands when I was a GM and saying, "Hi, my name's Darren Millard, and I'd like to interview you about Brule." And we did that interview, and that was really, and our history together since then has been pretty amazing. And I miss you and Kipper. We had so much fun and so many laughs. And it was a great show, and it was one of my favorite parts of my career was doing that show with you and Kipper. And I'm so happy for you and the family and how everything has gone for you guys in Vegas. So congratulations.
We all survived the roof caving in on us. Literally.
Oh my God. Yeah. I remember poor Scott Moore phoned me. You okay? I should have said no. I should have sued the bastards. Anyway.
People, if you don't know what we're talking about, Google ceiling caving in on Hockey Central at noon. It's one of the most spectacular pieces of video you will ever see. Doug MacLean, we are fortunate that you are still with us after that because it was really close. Say, go walk on the beach or do whatever you do today.
Okay, bud. Thanks.
All right, little inside information from the media perspective. Anytime somebody writes a book that you think you might be in, what you do is you go to Indigo and you look at the back of the index to see if you were mentioned, and you immediately go to that to see whether it's good or bad. Everybody needs to know whether they were mentioned and whether somebody's taking a shot at them. And we all know how those people where may not get along with them the best, they write a book, and you're wondering, oh, is this going to be the one where I get a big poke, somebody jabs you? John Shannon had a good line. He had the book Evolve or Die, a marvelous storytelling book about his time in the National Hockey League, Hockey Night in Canada, then as an announcer. He took a different approach and said, all those people that I might take a jab at, I left out of the book. So good on you, John. You're a bigger person than me. If I ever write the book, it's going to be scorched earth. No, Bob Bender, look out. You are going to be absolutely taken down if I ever decide to write a book, which at this point, I don't really have time for because I'm trying to wrap up this podcast episode, and I have trouble doing that. Scott Morrison, you were the ghostwriter with Doug, and you are our boss at Sportsnet and Hockey Central. That was a three-headed monster. I can't believe you want to go anywhere near talking about that because it probably gives you some sort of PTSD, but proud of you with that. Scotty's done a number of different offerings in the book publishing area. I purchased it through Amazon. Want to make sure that we let everybody know where you can get a hold of Draft Day by Doug MacLean and Scott Morrison. I went through Simon & Schuster on Amazon, and it arrived no time flat. It's awesome. It's an entertaining and educational read, a little bit of both, and there is the odd little just poke in there, the jab from Doug MacLean that only Doug can do, and then smiles and says, kidding. It's the absolute best the way Doug can do it, and only he can get away with that kind of stuff. Mac's comments, should mention, on Edmonton and Kenny Holland came from his experience both working with Kenny and then working with him as a peer in the National Hockey League as a general manager and president, and then research for this book. And Kenny, I'm convinced, is working the phones diligently right now, looking for some sort of answer with his hockey club from a roster perspective. He's made the coaching change with Chris Knobloch, and now he's trying to strengthen the goaltending side of things. Calvin Pickard got his first start since he's been recalled in the Jack Campbell demotion to Bakersfield. I can't see it going the distance with Calvin, who's been around for a number of years, second round pick back in the day. But Pickard and Stuart Skinner, that's a lot of pressure on a guy that's coming back to the National Hockey League after being away for a year and a little bit. And then you've got Stuart just in his second year. So much on their shoulders that I assume that from what I'm hearing, based on a couple of different reports, that Kenny is trying to find an answer or a little bit of depth through the goaltending side of it because Jack just hasn't been able to find his game even in Bakersfield in the American Hockey League. We are approaching a window for Andrei Vasilevsky. Should also mention this, talking about goaltending. His return to Tampa Bay is going to be a massive story in the next couple of weeks. And how about Tampa Bay? They turned what could have been a huge talking point in this first quarter of the NHL season and turned it into a non-story. That's impressive. Tampa Bay in a playoff spot at Thanksgiving without the best goaltender in the world. That is an incredible accomplishment by Steven Stamkos, the captain, and we know that Kucherov has been great, and John Cooper might be his best coaching job that he's done to date. So congratulations there. The biggest mover in the last week has been Winnipeg. Boy, they're in the best place that group has been all season long. And Columbus hockey fans, you deserve better right now. Well, Seattle, they got beat by Calgary in overtime this week, but Seattle's really starting to look like the deep, fast team that topped 100 points last year. And on the subject of Seattle, like they're starting to find it. But does anybody else think that Dave Haxtell, coach of the Kraken, and the new head coach of the Edmonton Oilers, Chris Knobloch, could be separated at birth like brothers? Look at them. Seriously. I can't unsee that after it jumped into my mind. So that's something that I'll leave you with. Is I hope you really enjoyed today's offering. Share it with your friends. Send me a note through X or Instagram or Facebook. I put out the episodes, so find those links and chime back to me. I'd love to get your thoughts on what you heard today, and just what was your favorite part about Doug's stories. Personally, like Mario passing him, going through in the golf course, that's pretty good. And of course, any type of reaction from Doug to the event of or extent of lighting a towel on fire in the golf course is pretty cool. Doug, I owe you one. Love you, buddy. I can't wait to spend some time with you next summer, but a lot to cover before that on the Chirp Podcast with Darren Millard. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. We'll talk to you next week.